The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies, Geek Nation Tours, and by the generous donations of you, the listener. Thank you to everyone for your continued generous support. We really appreciate it. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode number 238. Bad Squiddo Games and Freya's Wrath, with hosts Neil Shuck and Mike Hobbs, and special guest Annie Norman from Bad Squiddo Games. This podcast was recorded on the 18th of December 2017. Hello everyone and welcome to this bonus episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. My name's Neil Shuck, and on this show I will be joined in a minute by the Welsh Wizard himself, Mr. Michael Hobbs, and also Annie Norman from Bad Squiddo Games. Now, there's a brief story about this. We've been going backwards and forwards on email and social media between myself, Mike and Annie about getting Annie back on the show, especially to talk about her new Kickstarter, which is launching in January. And we were looking at, when we could get her back on and this and the other. And because of our change in recording schedule, we actually had a couple of free slots that we could use, which I normally use them now for catching up on editing and that sort of things. But I thought, okay, we got a free window, let's record an interview. And the intention was to produce this and publish this after our end of the year show, but before, just before Freya's Wrath launched, towards the end of January. However, then, as part of the interview, Annie talks about something she's doing called Running with Pigs, which she's doing until the end of the year, end of December. And I thought, oh, well, if she's talking about that and, if she wants to promote it, that actually means that ideally the show needs to go out before the new year. So the idea then came about that actually what I'll do is I'll edit it together and I'll put it out in between Christmas and New Year as a bonus podcast, bonus episode. So this is what this is. This is that bonus episode. So, we are talking to Annie Norman from Bad Squiddo Games. We're catching up with her all about how 2017 has gone, but also we're looking forward to what's going on, and specifically we're going to be talking about the Freya's Wrath Kickstarter campaign, which is coming in early 2018. Hope you enjoy it.
I don't like it, Sergeant.
Me neither, sir.
Good Lord, it's really looking pretty bad.
Yes, sir. It happens every time, sir. It's too predictable, sir.
How far do you think we've advanced, Sergeant?
6 inches, sir. It's always 6 inches. We advance 6 inches, then Jerry gets a go. The lads are calling it Hi-Go Hugo, sir.
Hi-Go Hugo? Good grief.
And they don't like it, sir.
Oh, not like it? Seems pretty straightforward to me, rather like cricket. We have an innings, then the other chap does.
Well, that's all very well, sir, cricket, sir, but begging your pardon, it ain't like that, sir, in war. I don't think Mr. Hitler plays like that.
What, Hitler? No, gosh, he'd like to go all the time.
Oh, Lord, sir, lummy. Well, sir, anyway, sir, it's like this, sir. If it carries on like this, I go, you go, me and the lads won't be coming to your Thursday evening games club, and that's the way it is, sir.
Looking for more of a challenge with your World War II games? Are you tired of the predictability of I go, you go systems? by&nbsp provides real command challenges on an unpredictable battlefield. Two fat blarneys, playing the period and not the rules since 2002. Pip pip.
Have you ever wondered what's going on in wargaming? We do too. So come with us as we go behind the hobby with the Meeples and Miniatures interview. We are pleased, nay, overjoyed to have back with us yet again. It's Annie Norman from Bad Squiddo Games. Hello, Annie.
Hey!
How you doing, kiddo?
I'm pretty good, actually. How are you?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
good stuff. Fantastic to speak to you again. It's been ages.
Me too. I've not seen you for about 20 years, I think.
What?
It's been a few months, isn't it? That's about all.
I never see you. I never see you around anywhere. Never see you at shows or online. Nope.
Never write. Never phone.
Yes, I completely failed to come and say hi whenever I'm in Cardiff.
Yep.
Oh, terrible. So, anyway, welcome back to the show. We were just looking it back up, and we talked to you back in February, but there's so much going on with you at the moment, and especially with some big exciting news that we've got coming up really shortly, that we thought, well, yes, we had to get you back on.
Hey.
So, great to speak to you. We last spoke to you in February. You've been a bit busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think before we move on to what's forthcoming, can we have a quick catch up with what you've been up to over the last 10 months or so?
Yeah. It feels like quite a bit of a blur because there's been so much. I'm having to think back, and it feels like it's been quite a few years, and it's not. It's things that have been just a few months ago. So it was February where we chatted. I don't think I told you what the Salute release was then. I was doing my whole teasy thing. And I think I mentioned a few bits, but was doing the, I've got really cool stuff, but I can't tell you about it yet thing.
Yeah.
So Salute, as usual, was absolute carnage and continues to be the best thing ever. So we released a whole new load of Shield Maidens, Soviets. I can't remember what else. It was bunnies, rabbits, all sorts of stuff. And then the year has just been absolutely jam-packed. So we had the Ghost of Gaia 2, which was the follow-up to Ghost of Gaia 1. So lots more sci-fi kick-ass ladies with ridiculous hairdos.
It's such a shame that Games Workshop has suddenly decided to relaunch Necromunda.
Yes. It's almost like I might have known that beforehand, but who knows. It's worked out well. The fulfillment of the Kickstarter has worked out well, because that's been happening throughout December, so I've got the last few that I'm packing up at the moment, which has been good timing, really, because it's just kind of how it's happened. It was down to fulfill in December, but when I was running the campaign, I was hoping for a September, October, but because so much has happened, it feels like it's late, but it's not. It's actually on time. But the on time turns out to be perfect. So we've got that. We've got a big chunk of the Kickstarter, aside from the badass ladies, was guinea pigs and bunnies in various motorbikes, cars, tanks, hovercraft sort of things. And I think when I started adding it up in the Pledge Manager, there were more people that wanted that than the actual ladies. So the silly side thing ended up being quite a big thing, quite a big deal, which is bizarre,
We're
but
meant to be doing
amazing.
packs as well.
Oh, there's all sorts planned. So Delaney King from Darkling Games, she is writing the rules at the moment. That's the only thing that's been delayed. So all the miniatures are being shipped in December, but the rules are going to be shipped afterwards because, well, we want to make sure that the rules are perfect, but also she had quite a few personal issues during the year. I didn't want to push her, and I didn't want to just rush a game out for the sake of it. So that's getting shipped extra for free, for free, no extra postage or anything for all the backers. But as soon as we've got a solid first draft, which is any day at this point, hopefully by the time the podcast is out, then all the backers are going to get the PDF. So everyone can be a playtester, basically. We're going to put all that information together, and then hopefully in a couple of months we'll have a solid rule set for it. It started off just as a silly idea, but the more people that were interested, the more we wanted to make it actually a really good game. A game that was appealing to new people to the hobby, which is something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I've had quite a few start and stop projects that have never really got anywhere, which we're trying to get more children into the hobby, more women into the hobby, just more people that the games aren't marketed at normally.
Yeah.
And then this has happened by accident and actually turned out perfectly, because who doesn't want to play guinea pigs and bunnies blowing each other up?
I do.
Exactly.
I want a game. Yeah.
So that is actually quite exciting, because I think at some point we spoke on one of the podcasts about a game, and I said, yeah, at some point in the future, I don't know, blah, blah. And it's kind of just happened. So I'm excited about that, and it's going to be a nice, fun game. There's no way that anyone's going to play. It's the current working title is Gunny Pets. I'm not sure if it'll change, but if anyone's going to play Gunny Pets and be a rules lawyer or just a total about it, it's not really that sort of game, is it? So I'm excited to just make something fun that people can play, that's easy to get into. Maybe it's got a bit more depth to it, that you can master it, but it's that the way the games are going at the moment is they're very sort of skirmishy, easy to pick up, but there's, they're not simple. You can master it, but to get into the game, you can do it with one demo. So that should be exciting. And I've got my table booked for Salute next year as well, to be running demos of that. So I'm currently trying to build a large guinea pig cannon to display for that. And I've got an even larger team than usual to help with selling all the things and playing all the things. So I'm really, really excited about that. So that was Ghosts of Gaia 2, which went even bigger than I expected. Then we had the summer. So throughout the summer, it's just been, I think every time I talk to you, it's just been growing faster than I can imagine. So we've just been growing. I managed to get a week off. Well, it's about 10 days off, where I went to Sweden, which I'll talk about in a bit. So that was a bit of a break. Came back, ran another Kickstarter. I had access to a different caster. So whilst the other caster was working away on the Ghost of Gaia stuff, I realised that the vampire things that I spoke to you about before were just there, and I really wanted to do something with them. And I thought, well, I might as well now. It was partly due to Dracula's America starting to come out, getting popular. So I thought, well, if it's a good time to just get this out. And I almost put it on an Annie starter, which is what I'd been saying to people, that I was going to just do a fancy pre-order system. And then part of me thought, okay, let's do a Kickstarter, because if I don't Kickstarter it, I'll be thinking, how much would it have done in a Kickstarter, which would always be more. And if the Kickstarter didn't do what I expected, then that's fine, because I'd had the sculpts for a long time, and I was kind of just waiting to release them. So I thought this was my best bet, to Kickstarter it.
Yeah.
And just see what happens. So I already had it all mastered, had all the molds prepped. I thought, I'm going to do a really short one. These new casters that I had, I'd explained the situation to them. I said, all right, it's just going to be a few grand. It's just going to be a little bam, and I want it out. I don't want it to drag because I've got another Kickstarter waiting. I don't want to be that person that's got several Kickstarters on the go. I don't want to annoy the Ghost of Gaia 2 people thinking, why are you doing this other project while you haven't fulfilled the other project?
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that it was a different caster, so it didn't interfere, it didn't delay any of that. I thought, let's just see what happens. It's kind of a bit of a fun experiment. So I whacked those up on Kickstarter. A big chunk, probably about half of the sculpts were male, which was very new to me. But it was a range, in case anyone hasn't listened to the previous one, it was a range that I'd bought off another chap. And it had been on Indiegogo, but it had been unsuccessful. And then he'd sold the range to me, so it'd never been available at retail. But he originally offered me just one of the female sculpts, but the male sculpts were so good that I couldn't help myself, so I bought the entire range. And they are lovely. So a huge amount of it's by Gary Morley of GW and various other fame. And there were also sculpts by Ian Mountain and Gus Kearns, who was something like 17 when he sculpted them. And I met him a few months afterwards as well, and he was crazy talented. The male sculpts were what actually drew me in. The female sculpts were also excellent and fit in with my whole thing. And the Kickstarter went nuts. And I think nuts for what it was, for something that just sort of bammed out of nowhere. It was, 10 sculpts? And made about 12 grand or something. And it was 5 days. I think it was 5 days.
It was really, really quick, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It just sort of went, and the fulfillment began straight afterwards. So the sort of quirk of it was that it was an insta Kickstarter, and the stuff started shipping immediately. The poor casters that I said, yeah, maybe we'll do about 3 grand or something if you can cast that in a few days, we can get that straight out. And then I had to keep messaging them, going, "Oh, I'm really sorry. It's going really well. Can you just do a little bit of overtime just to get that out?" And then silly me thought that I could fulfill it over a weekend, which is something that I recently said as well, because I have it in my head that no matter how big the orders, I can do it in a weekend. Okay. And all this metal appeared. I thought that might take about a week just to get through the metal, because I check through all the castings, even though they've been pre-checked. I like to look at them myself just to make sure. So I go through them. The same time, I put them into little grip seal bags, just the little plastic bags, just to, in my head and in my notes, it means that they're checked and they're good. And that takes so long. But still, that whole Kickstarter was sort of over in a fortnight. It was done and dusted in a fortnight. And I loved it. And it made me want to do that again. Because even though it was 6 months with Ghost of Gaia 2, it still feels like a long time. And in my head, it feels like it's late, even though it isn't. So that gap, I'm not a massive fan of, but it's always been necessary, because casters are so busy that you have to book that slot a long time in advance. A lot of casters don't even deal with you if it's a Kickstarter, because they don't want that. You know, if the Kickstarter goes crazy, then they don't want to be responsible for it being delivered slow, things like that, which I totally understand. But the new casters that I started to work with around that time were just absolute animals in a perfect way, not in a bad way. They're casting monsters. And since then, that was almost like my first chance to work with them, and they've been my absolute favourite. And they're now going to be the people that are casting the next Kickstarter, which I'll talk about in a bit. And that will enable me to have that Kickstarter done and dusted very quickly, which I'm excited about.
Cool. Right, okay. Then I suppose moving into the autumn, you then went back to World War II, didn't you?
I did. That was actually my most exciting project so far. It was an example of how it's something I personally was more interested in by anything else. So the historical miniatures that I produce are really where my heart is. Some of the other stuff I think is really cool, and I obviously really like. I wouldn't make things if I didn't like them. But the stuff that makes me really happy is the historical. So the World War II has been a humongous part of what makes me happy. So I think it's the researching and learning about it and linking it to people, and people that until recently have still been alive. I think that connection and being able to honour them just feels really wholesome. So when I was learning about the Soviets for the Soviet miniatures, that was really interesting, and I learned so much that I didn't know beforehand. But the home front was something that I wanted to make from the start of the company when I very first set up. But I didn't know much about the market. I didn't know many sculptors at that point. And it was something I had in the back of my head as a bit of a wish list type thing. So after the Ghost of Gaia, the Ghost of Gaia 2, part of the money from that went straight, well, a large amount actually of the money went straight to Alan Marsh to make these. Which is an example of how I've been using a mixture of standard releases and Kickstarter. So Kickstarter things that I feel really need it, and then others, such as the World War II, that sort of sells itself, it can then fund into. So with that cash, the profit from that Kickstarter went into more World War II. And a few people were saying, well, quite a few people were saying, why don't you kickstart this? And I don't want to be just constantly kickstarting, because there's so many things I want to release, and I don't want to be a Kickstarter company, but I'd like to use it for certain things. So with the home front, I thought I'm just going to release it. I want it out. I wanted to have it at Crisis. So the miniatures for that, firstly, they've been Land Army and Women's Home Defence, which are Mum's Army. And they started off just being civilians, but then due to looking at games such as Operation Sea Lion, obviously, and Very British Civil War, putting them armed also seemed to make sense. So there's 3 different Land Army packs, 2 different Mum's Army, and there's also a field medic. So I was learning about British field medics overseas, which was, again, really interesting, and previously I didn't know anything about. And I've started on some ATS. There's a whole ATS range planned, but you can only do so much at once. Which is why I sometimes get frustrated when I post something really cool and new, and the comments are, oh, do you have any plans to, like, yes, I have plans to do this. I want to do this, I want to do this and this, but I can't do it all at once. So here are these things, buy these things please, and then I will make these things. So the ATS, I have some brilliant plans, and I was really excited by them, but I don't want to spread too thin or spend all my cash and be screwed. So the first wave for the home front was these 3 Land Armies, 3 Land Army, 2 Women's Home Defence, and the medic set. And they've been absolutely brilliant, and they're actually, I think they're my favourite release so far. My nan was in the Land Army, and where I grew up in a small village, basically most of the people in the village had previously worked in the Land Army. Their husband, they'd stayed married to local farmers. Their husbands had died, so there were a lot of old ladies, basically, that were living in the village whilst I was growing up. And we were a bit cut off, so whilst other people were hanging around shops and smoking and things, I was knitting with old ladies. So I'm very connected to it, and it's something I wanted to do to sort of honour my nan and the other ladies that sort of helped me become the person that I am now. But again, at the start, I didn't know if that was going to be a hobby project, whether it would sell, because they're not, particularly active. It's not like the Soviets where they're on the field with a gun in their hand. They're in the fields digging, or packing turnips. So I wasn't sure what the demand for that would be. But after I had that cash come in from the Kickstarter, I thought, yes, I can finally do it. Let's just take a punt, see what happens. But they've been a brilliant success, and I'm so proud of them. And it came at a perfect time where these new casters that I'd used for My Last Sunrise, the vampire, they'd cast all of these. And the quality when they arrived was so good. I got quite emotional when they arrived, because it was just exactly how I wanted. And I think I spoke before that I'd had a lot of problems. Well, I think it's 2.5 years now since I've been doing miniatures, and the amount of just hiccups and issues along the way. And it's not always been the other person's fault, so I'm not going to say, such and such ruined this and ruined this. A lot of the time I've had casters that haven't been able to take on the quantity, for example, that I want to do. And I've just been going about getting things remolded, and that sort of thing's been really difficult. And to find these casters that are just absolutely perfect, and they deliver massive chunks of metal. I open the box and I'm really excited about it, because I've had boxes of metal come with dread, opened them and had to send them back. These are all I quite like talking about the behind the scenes elements, because so many people think that it's such an easy process to get the miniatures made when there are so many things that go wrong. And it's not just me. It happens to all the biggest companies as well. The more I talk to people, the more everyone has the same sort of problems. So now the people that I have, I'm ever so grateful. They're CMA Creative. I feel I should give them a shout out. But they've turned everything around, just in the quality of the metal, the quality of the casts. So when they arrived with the Land Army and the Mum's Army, it was possibly the best moment of running my company so far. So that was a really good high point of the year. Monologue.
That's really cool.
That was exciting. It's
not a release that you may expect to be successful, if you know what I mean. Hence, obviously, your comments about, okay, this is something I want to do. So it's good to hear that not only was it fulfilling from your point of view, that actually it's found an audience.
Yeah, and I'm really happy about that, because I've got the emotional connection to it, and I do sort of flip between things that I know are pretty much solid, and they're going to be a fine release, and then I sort of treat myself in between, and I'm extra happy when the treats for me also turn out to be great for the company, because that gives me an excuse to make more of it. So it was great that I could do that. It was great that I could honour my nan. And then I spoke to my mum, who told me that she'd showed my dad, who'd started crying. So I knew that I'd made a good impact. And a lot of people had also said that they would be buying them to honour their mums or their nans. And it's nice to be able to do something to represent the women that aren't fighting. Because a lot of the time, and when I set the company up, I was very focused on those frontline fighting, sort of badass, the tropes that go out doing all of the combat. But there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more different roles that don't get the same sort of glory. So to be able to represent them was really important to me, and it was just really exciting to see them, and to look once Andrew and Paul had painted the minis up for me, I could almost see the people that I knew in small scale. So I was just amazed by it. I really like that.
It's a fabulous little range of figures. That's really cool.
Thank you. I'll definitely be expanding that. All of the World War II, it's sort of grown on me at the start. That's not where I was going. I started off with the Shield Maidens and more sort of ancient-y, ancient Dark Age type thing. And I think I said before that the World War II was something that just wasn't on my radar at all, because it was very boyish, and it just had never been, I'd say, marketed at me. It's something that I'd never looked into, aside from, everyone knows the basics. So when it was only the Night Witches that had me looking at the Soviets, and then started to look into all of World War II and all of the different women that were involved, and I was flabbergasted by the massive involvement. And I think it is that whole living memory thing that just makes it even more interesting, that I think you can relate a lot more than a Shield Maiden that we might not know anything about. They're more in your head, they're more real, but it's easier to connect to, and I think that's ended up just being a massive interest for me. So that's the part of my company that I'm going to really, really grow on.
That'd be really good. I mean, because there are so many unknown stories out there about the women who did serve, and just everything. Everything they did in the background. I used to know an old lady when I was reenacting. She was part of the reenactment group, and we all called her Nan. And she kept going on about how she was SOE during the war, and we were all like, "Yeah, of course you were, Nan. Yeah, yeah." Until one day, somebody bought a .303 Enfield rifle, and she went, "Oh, let's have a look at that." And she picked it up, and she was chatting to us, and she was field stripping this rifle, without even looking at it, And this is a woman. She was in her 80s then. Little dodgy woman, and she just feels stripping the Enfield without even looking at it. You just think, okay, maybe what you've been telling us,
it wasn't.
Yeah, because that's not something you just pick up,
Yeah,
and
that's impressive.
Yeah. God bless her. God bless her, man. But yeah, there's so many lovely stories, harrowing stories as well.
Yeah, it's just really interesting to read about. So I like that that's my job. I seem to have cultivated my dream job, that I get to learn about this and then teach other people about it. It's good. So since then, we've got into. I had a few fantasy releases, going far and far away from World War II. So I think it may have been February. We were talking about how I'd sort of clawed the company back because it was growing very fast, and I wanted to just hold back a bit, check everything, before we plow on. Yeah. I didn't want to just grow and explode, so I wanted to grow carefully.
And so you were stopping marketing other people's ranges, and you were going to stop marketing Saga and Frostgrave, despite the fact they were doing well for you and all this sort of thing. How was that going then?
Yeah, that was the strange thing, that they were doing so well. Well, they were doing really well for me, and then in the new year, I took them all away, and I thought, I'm just going to do female minis. It's a very risky move because they've been a huge part of my income, specifically Frostgrave, and I'm going to focus on female minis. I'm going to scale back a bit, get myself a bit more life, a bit more spare time, because I was, turning into a crazy business owner lady. And then the business was just growing anyway. I couldn't really stop it. So the Bad Squiddo range, my own miniatures, the range was just growing. And I think Kickstarter was probably quite a big part of that, in that it helped me just to constantly be doing more and more, which is exactly where my heart is at, doing more and more of these cool female minis. So I kind of got to a point where I thought, well, if I'm going to just be growing, I might as well embrace it now. I've had my point where I wanted to hold back, but it's a bit of an unstoppable bull now. So there's a point with a company where you either scale back or you just go for it. And I scaled back in the new year because I wasn't ready for it then. And then it came to a point, maybe September, where I thought, I don't want to scale back anymore. I'm ready for it. Here we go. So we've got even more Bad Squiddo miniatures as has been happening, and I have given up with the holding back, and I'm now starting to stock more and more things which I used to stock before, but in more of a controlled manner. I've got the new website which has got the live stock, and now I'm back getting a lot of things from North Star. So we've got the Frostgrave Ghost Archipelago, which I wasn't going to stock, but whilst I was in Sweden, having a tour around the archipelago, I thought, this is awesome. I can't wait to do miniatures of this. This is going to be great. Which sort of turned into, well, I should probably stock it if I'm going to be into it so much. And then I ended up thinking, well, then I might as well stock Dracula's America, because that'll go with the figures that I have as well, and that looks like a really good game. And so it kept tumbling. Which is good, and it's great, and I'm really excited to be working with North Star again, because since I'd scaled back, there weren't many things that I was getting from them. They manufacture cobblestone, so little bits like that. but not massively. And I'm excited to be working with them because they're a really good bunch of people. And for somebody that's so big in the industry, they have a lot of integrity, and they are really nice people. And I love chatting to them and working with them. And I think that's really important because I try so hard just to. It's easy to be a. It's easy to screw people over and to do certain things, and business always comes first. But when there's people that have come that far and not screwed people over, and just been really solid people, that's what I like working with. So I've really enjoyed working with them a lot more again. And getting more of the stuff that they're creating. So they've got Bobby Jackson from Reaper that's been working for Reaper now, doing some of their latest Frostgrave, and they did some ladies, and they've got some amazing things coming. And I love that the Frostgrave, from talking to Joe the author, about how he's on exactly the same level that he doesn't, when he made the first Frostgrave game, he specifically stated that he didn't want any cheesecake artwork, no cheesecake miniatures, so nothing, no ladies in fur bikinis, basically. So that's one of the things that helped me get a really good connection with Frostgrave. So to then go into the archipelago, and they've got female pirates, they're just really cool. I mean, this is something that I should be involved with because it just fits along so well. And then a lot of my own figures fit into that as well. I liked that before, which was when it was growing too fast, but now I can handle it, was that you can buy your female minis, your plastic box sets, your green stuff, all in the same place. So I've gone back to stocking all of the plastic box sets, so the Perry, the Fireforge, and they're the sort of things you can put the female heads on. So if you just want to make loads of troops, you can put the heads on the troops. Again, people have been buying that like crazy. I'm still, I think, 2.5 years, I'm still in shock that people are buying so much from me. Like, oh, they do like my stuff. So that's great.
Busy year, isn't it?
Whew. The Honor Begeisha, they were a bit of a...
Ooh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Neil was going crazy on Twitter. I was like, whoa, calm down, man. When are you having them? When can I buy them? Soon, Neil, soon.
Yes, I want them. Why aren't they on your website now?
It's so weird with miniatures. Like, you can do all the sums in the world and all the studying in the world, and I don't think most people even know how something's going to go. So there's been some releases where I thought, these are going to knock people's socks off. This is one of the best things I've ever seen. And then you release it and it just sort of sits there, or people go crazy on the comments and they go, oh, I need this. Oh, my wallet's crying. And you look at PayPal and think, well, okay, you've bought it, John. Thanks, John. But none of these guys have bought it. So I've had these on a Begeisha that I was sort of collecting over the year. I thought, I guess I'll release them because I've had them for a while. I've got this big Kickstarter coming up. I guess now's quite a good time. And the casters had sent me some early copies. So I thought, well, might as well take some to Warfare. Maybe I'll sell a few there, they've not really had a build-up or anything. Chucked them on the internet, and then everyone went crazy for them. Oh, people like this stuff. So that was ace. So I took what I had to Warfare, which sold out really fast, including one guy, Bruce, who's probably listening, who came, bought them, and then went home again. So he just came specifically to buy them. Okay.
Oh, cool.
So that was a very nice surprise, and they've been doing really well online afterwards. So that was just a sort of wild card, which has just been really nice, and something that I kind of needed now that I'm prepping for this next big thing.
Now, I have to say, because as far as the Honor Begeisha are concerned, I mean, you only currently have eight miniatures in the range.
9. No, 8. No, I do have 8. I originally advertised it as 9 until someone told me that 3 and 2 doesn't make 9.
Are there plans to make any more?
There are.
Oh, don't tell him that.
There are, but like anything, it's all down to budget. because the sculpts and manufacturing cost so much. And I think a lot of people don't realise just quite how much money they cost. So when I get a wish list type things, I should do this, like, yes, I really want to do, with the Soviets, with the ATS, yeah, they'd be great, but I need a few grand, which I don't have. I kind of eat beans on toast. That's sort of it. So there are plans for a lot more. Well, now there are, because they've done so well for the Ononbugaisha. But it totally depends on the budget and how much of the next Kickstarter sells, how many of the next few releases sell, because it's so hard to plan. Yeah. So it's kind of impossible to say, right, well, in March we're going to do this much, because I have no idea how much the next stuff's going to sell. So the answer to a lot of things is yes, at some point or soon. But it's not my passion, like with the World War II and the Shield Maidens.
Was that effectively your last release?
Pretty much. I've had a few. I've had the Snake Lady. I've had Holder the Herbalist. A few sort of bits and bobs. Yeah, heckin' Angry Mandrill. But they've all been good. The Pirate Queen, of course, who I had made because I couldn't find it out there and amongst what I stock. Because the bonus of stocking lots of core female minis is that I can look amongst my my little shop and think, right, I want to play a game, what shall I choose? And I couldn't find a Pirate Queen that really did what I wanted to. I thought, hey, I run a miniatures company, let's make a Pirate Queen. So Shane made me exactly what I wanted, which was the biggest badass Pirate Queen. Obviously was then added to the range, and there's a couple more pirates coming out soon as well to hang out with her. But yeah, just something that was scary looking and elaborate and crazy. And she fits really well with the North Star. They've done some female crew, which they're the Bobby Jackson ones that are absolutely lovely. Really. I like being jealous of people's minis. It's the sort of thing I think, oh, I'd love them to be mine. But they're just really nice. So I'm happy that I can stock them. And that my cool lady can lead them as well. So they're leading them in my warband that's taken forever to paint up. One last big thing that happened this year, amongst the things that I've probably forgotten, is that I went into VAT land. So one of the things that's, as we've been talking about, the growth of companies and the sort of behind-the-scenes situations, I'm now a VAT registered company, which means that I can no longer stock some of the smaller ranges, smaller companies, basically anybody who's not VAT registered that can't give me the discount that I require to add. Basically, if somebody gives me a 30% discount, they now have to give me a 50% discount, which some of the smaller companies can't do. Yeah. So that's going to be the biggest change that's happened to my company since I've started it, and being able to deal with that. So the downsides are that there are companies that I'm having to stop that I can't stock anymore because I physically can't. But the other side of it is that my distribution is going to be better. So it's going to help with my retail, which means it's going to be easier to get my own products into shops, which has been growing this year anyway, but it's going to be even easier to get into more shops, and hopefully distribution as well. So if a distributor takes on some of my products, then shops all over the world can very easily they don't need to set up an account with me, so they can go to their distributor, they can buy their Fireforge, their whatever, their Saga, but at the same time they can go, I'll try a couple packs of these Shield Maidens, I might as well add them to my shop. Oh, they've sold really well, let's get some more Shield Maidens. So that's the bonus of it, which I'm actually really looking forward to. So in the new year there's going to be some really big changes. And yeah, some of it's negative, some of it's positive, but in the general direction, it's actually very exciting because it means that the company's doing really well. And that's part of me going, right, now is the point that I have to just grow.
Yeah.
So that is good.
Well, I mean, as I say, I mean, just getting to the point where you suddenly go, oh, I have to become VAT registered. I mean, that's a bit of, that's quite a landmark for a company, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's good. The fact that at the very start, when I made Bad Squiddo Games from the Dice Bag Lady, I genuinely didn't imagine it lasting till the end of the year. I thought it was my last ditch attempt, and let's give it a go. Let's try minis. I don't know if it's going to work, and here I am. So I'm really proud of that, and it's showing the amount of effort that I've put into it. It's just, and well, people supporting it obviously as well. It's come a lot further than I imagined, and that's really great.
Cool.
So, what's next?
Just some stuff.
Just
some female minis, probably.
She's gone into shy mode again.
I don't know. Right, so, in January 2018, we're launching in
dum, dum, dum.
with Shield Maidens. Oh no, wait.
Hang on. Neil, drum roll.
This isn't the drum roll you want. That's not the drum roll you want.
Damn it.
It's the drum roll we've got. More Shield Maidens, which initially may not be as exciting as something completely different, but we're going back to basics. So, the start of the company, the whole company was set up because I wanted Shield Maidens, and I couldn't find Shield Maidens that I wanted. And I was very angry about it. And then, when my wrist stopped working and I couldn't make dice bags, I thought I'm going to make these Shield Maidens a thing, because I have the position to do that now. So I made some Shield Maidens, I made a few different types, I made some troops, some characters, and now what I want to do, and then I obviously went into World War II, Ghosts of Gaia, My Last Sunrise, but we're going back to Shield Maidens, because that is the heart of the company, and we're going to do an entire Shield Maiden army. So before, it was sort of, well, because we started the company started in debt. It started in debt from being unable to pay rent, being unable to look after myself because I had so many problems with my wrists but was unable to do anything about it. It started in very difficult times, whereas a lot of companies obviously will start from investments or from inheritance or just having cash saved up. So at the start it was, we make a figure, we sell enough of that figure, then we make another figure. So it's been a really sort of difficult process, but we've managed to get to where we are now, which is insane but amazing. So now we're in the position where we can, instead of doing here's a unit, here's another unit, and go here are 50 models at once. But the only way we can do that is by harnessing the power of the Kickstarter. We've got them sculpted, we're going to be getting them mastered very soon. Well, a chunk of them are mastered already, and then all these production molds and the casts is what this Kickstarter is about. Right. And it's making sure that you're going to want it. So we've learned through Ghosts of Gaia that the Kickstarter reach is just massive. So I've reached a certain amount of people with Shield Maidens previously, but I'd like to have a lot more people discover my company. So this Kickstarter is a really good opportunity to do that. It's Dark Age Viking female warriors, but they're so cool that they're also really versatile, so you can use them for fantasy as well as a couple of different eras. Someone pointed out that they could be used for pirates, actually, because Dark Age clothing is, it's quite generic in a way. It's a tunic and trousers. So they're stunning models. A lot of the old school Dark Age figures they're very heavily converted. So you might have a unit of 2 guys, but there's 4 or 6 guys where he's got a different head or his arms moved slightly. So I wanted these, just like the Dark Age mounted warriors that I already produce, I wanted them to be almost like their character figures. So they're really unique characters that make an absolutely stunning army. So these are all done by the same sculptor. They're done in the same style as the Soviets. Alan Marsh is the Soviet sculptor. He's doing all of these. He's done the mounted Shield Maidens. He's done a lot of the characters. So he's the man behind Inga, Svala, Thorin, Lagertha, Letty, all of those. So to be able to use the same sculptor, do them all in one wave, so they all fit with each other, sell them in a box set. it's as big as you want to go. So you can get a few characters for an RPG, or a skirmish sort of Frostgrave type, or a Saga Force, as Saga 2 is coming out in February, which just so happens to be really nicely timed for it. So you can have your Viking Saga army of ladies, which would be ace. And you can go even bigger to something like Kings of War or Age of Sigmar, Kings of War Historical, Lion Rampant, and have an army. So you've got all your different troop types.
If only there was another fantasy game coming out.
Yeah, some guy's doing a game.
That could use them in. Yeah. But you probably wouldn't want to have those in.
No, that'd
in
be
the
terrible.
Rulebook,
That'd be the worst. Yeah,
full accreditation to you.
That'd be absolutely awful. I wouldn't want that at all.
Yeah. Oh, well, it was just an idea, but we can move on. Yeah.
That'd get me up on the credit wars. Do you know about the credit wars, Neil?
Do I know about the credit wars? No.
The credit wars. Me and Hobbs are in a credit wars where, well, I've started about 20 years after Hobbs or something, and our race is to get the most credits in different wargame books.
Yeah, I seem to vaguely remember this being mentioned at some point. Yes, okay.
Yeah, Hobbs has had about 20 years start on me.
I've only been playtesting
You're in
for a little
everything.
while.
Every book I open's got thanks to Mike Hobbs in it. So we've been in the war. So I've been trying to.
Most that's in Biro.
I've been trying to get in as many books as possible, however I can, via photography or playtesting or something to beat Hobbs. But I've got my game coming out, and I'd like Hobbs to playtest it, so I was conflicted. It's like, I'd like Hobbs to help with the playtesting, but then he's going to get a credit, and this is my chance to get a credit without him. But I've already figured out I'm gonna credit myself for everything in the inner page. It's gonna be a game by Annie Norman, team making Annie Norman, creative ideas by Annie Norman,
Moose Trainer?
Chief Moose Trainer, Annie Norman, Pig Whisperer, Annie Norman. It's playtesting the microbes.
You could just misspell my name and say, never mind.
Yeah, that would work.
It'd be Michelle Hobbs.
Yes, Michelle Hobbs was an excellent playtester. But yes, Shield Maidens I am extremely excited by. So we've got all the troops, axes that I love, also the units. There's going to be a lot. It's not going to be everything in the world, but I'd like, due to the nature of me wanting it solid, done, shipped, there will be a whole other wave afterwards, but it'll probably be a standard release rather than a Kickstarter. But this is just to get us set off. So people already are making some really good suggestions, but I don't want it to be that long, draggy Kickstarter. I've spoken, these new casters who I've been gushing about earlier, they're on board, they're already booked and planned, so we are doing the Kickstarter. The current date, which may change due to life circumstance or whatever, is currently the 23rd of January, which is groundbreaking because I've not told anybody that yet. I've just said January. So the plan is to do the 23rd of January till the 6th of February, which is 2 weeks.
Wow, okay.
Yep. That goes over a payday. Woo! And also goes over Vapnatak, which is a massive show, one of my favourite shows that I really love. It's really busy. That's on the 4th of February. It is my birthday weekend, so if anyone wants to back for my birthday, it could be a thing. The casters are all booked for March, so as soon as it's finished, basically, they're going to be moulding and spinning like crazy people. And it's going to be very much in the vein of My Last Sunrise, that it's going to be shipped before you know it, which is going to be good. It's going to be limited. There's not going to be many. There's one resin thing planned for it, which is a bear family, which will be actually going into casting very soon, just to make sure that they're all good. And everything's getting mastered so that as soon as that Kickstarter's finished, the production can just bam out. And yeah, they're all booked, bam it out. And I just want it done. And because Saga 2 is February, it means that you can back. You can then, because some of the pledge levels will be for X amount of units, so you can go, right, I'd like 10 units, please. I don't know exactly what units I'd like just yet. And then Saga 2 is coming out, and the Viking book is coming out. And then you can look and realise what you want. So then you pledge manage, you go, right, I'm going to need this, this, and this, and this, please. Oh crap, I didn't realise I need these and these also. Add them on. So it seems to be perfectly timed, which it's kind of happened by coincidence, because this Kickstarter was supposed to be September. But because of life and business being busy, it's sort of ended up being later. But I didn't actually know anything about Saga 2 at that point. So this is because they're redoing the Vikings, but they're adding a mythology element as well. It is absolute perfect timing. So the core of it, the troops, are historical. They're historical shield maidens. Some of the characters I've got are from mythology, so I've been really enjoying reading about that. So the Kickstarter is actually called Freya's Wrath. So we need Freya.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Freya on foot, as I've been enjoying doing a foot and a mounted character in a pack together. So we've got Freya on foot, and Freya on her giant boar, Hildsvini, of course. Naturally.
Cool.
So a lot of people do shield maidens on moose or unicorns, but giant boar. That's kick-ass. We've also got Hel. We've got a absolutely amazing Valkyrie, some massive cats, a seer. Phil Hines is back, who I absolutely love, and he hasn't worked for me for a while, so I'm really pleased to be working with him again. He was my original sculptor, and he's local to me as well. So he's currently just finished the Bear Family, which you should have a look on the Bad Squiddo Facebook page to see, because they are absolutely adorable. And the Moose Family and the Beavers are next on his list for sculpting. And I didn't realise how cool beavers were, but now I know. They're kind of fat guinea pigs with tails, which is really cool. I had an interesting beaver experience whilst I was in Sweden as well.
Okay.
Which may have put me onto the beavers.
Right.
I met a lady who was very much into beavers, and she had beavers all over her house at Yalva, and she let me sample some, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it is juice from a beaver's anal gland mixed into vodka.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Freshly squeezed as well, so.
Yes, freshly squeezed. And I had no idea that was a thing, but it
Arse of
apparently
beaver.
is. So yeah, Arse of beaver was an interesting experience. And at the time I thought, well, beavers, you know. And then the more I looked into beavers, I thought, these are amazing. They're just like pigs, and I love pigs. And there's some absolutely adorable pictures of them. So because of the popularity of my pigs, my bunnies, all those things, like, I need to do some Scandinavian animals, because if people, maybe they've already got their male Viking army and they don't really want much more, they're going to want some bears and beavers and mooses. Elga. We saw some amazing moose in Sweden as well, and really up close, so that was great. Moose are also the best.
I don't want to know what you did with the moose. Who was the first person?
I didn't do anything.
Sorry.
Whenever people mention moose, all that goes through my head is the Muppet Swedish chef and making chocolate mousse.
That is exactly what it's like.
I'm just trying to work out who was the very first person who went, do you reckon if I squeeze that beaver I might get something to stick in my vodka?
Yeah.
Just these crazy Swedes.
So Sweden was an absolutely excellent trip, which was sort of half and half. It was half to go and research some cool Swedish stuff for this Kickstarter, for this range of minis. So I went to Gamla, Uppsala, which is where there's some massive burial mound, very old burial mounds. They've got a whole Viking museum and loads of artifacts. So I was going a bit crazy there.
I think I've seen that. Is that the one who's got the long hall as well? They got a recreation of a hall.
No,
Oh, I think it's somewhere else.
There's quite a lot there. There's the Oseberg ship in Norway, which I think got a big haul. They've done a lot there. And there's the Vasa Museum, which I didn't get to go to because I ran out of time. But that gave me an excuse to go back to Sweden next year, where they've got some crazy stuff. But Gamla Uppsala was amazing. Well, according to that guy Saxo, Odin lived there for a bit as well, which, Saxo's a very historical source, maybe. Well, I like it, so. But they had a really cool museum there. I got to dress up as shield maidens, so that was cool. We had a really interesting lady that was doing the talks, and she was saying about, it was interesting because it was very close just before the whole, there's a place in Sweden and a place in Scotland in the last few months that have decided that the warrior graves have been female. Yeah. And it was just before that. So the lady that was doing the talk was saying about how the people had assumed that they were male because they were buried with weapons. But because the graves are so old, a lot of the time you just have to use your modern day prejudice, basically, on what you think people are. So the only reason that you would say that a lot of things were male were because they were buried with weapons. So you would say they were female if they were buried with jewellery or cooking implements. But she was very much against that, saying that it could be either, and there were other reasons to suggest that. And that was really interesting. So that was a good start to it. A good start to the whole investigation. And then, obviously a couple months later, people have decided that a lot of the graves were female.
So do you think the females fought in the shield wall, or do you think they would have fought sort of behind, sort of smacking anyone who got through? I mean, I'm always interested to see how they would have fitted into the warfare of that time.
It's one where I really wish that I could say, yeah, there were loads of shield maidens, and they were really cool, and they did all this cool stuff. And in one of our previous interviews, because afterwards I sit and think about everything that I say, and face palm and worry until the episode goes out, thinking, oh, why did I say that? There was one interview I did with you guys where I said, there wouldn't be loads of shield maidens. Why am I saying that? I'm trying to sell loads of shield maidens. But I like to be honest about it, and I like to historically portray what I believe that it was. And if it was pulp or fantasy, to say, yeah, that was probably pulp or fantasy, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
So from my understanding, which isn't as in-depth as my Soviet research, but it's quite in-depth, and the same as the Soviet research, books are far, far better resources than the internet. Things get copied around the internet very quickly, and a lot of sources are wrong. So you have wrongness on either side. So there's obviously the people that say no, women fighting is ridiculous, and there's the other side that say there were millions of women fighters. So the sagas, Saxo is one of the big offenders. A lot of the sagas mention one. Who was it? One of the sagas mentions communities of shield maidens. Basically, I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah.
And there's, obviously the mentions of Lagerfur, Hervor, Brynhilds, Freydis. They're all mentioned, but a lot of those sagas are in dispute of whether they're actual recordings or that sort of Harry Potter of their time. So there's a lot of mythology around the women fighters, and obviously Valkyries, and it all gets a bit tangled up. But from my understanding and my research, I don't believe that it would be crazy to have had female warriors. I don't believe that there were massive units or armies of them. They look really cool on the tabletop, though.
Yeah.
But there would have been female warriors. There's enough evidence to suggest that that's not crazy. So many throughout history, because I've been looking throughout the whole of the timeline, it kind of goes through waves. So there's points where people don't care who's fighting; they just need fighters. And then something happens where they go, women can't fight. So it all sort of tightens up. And then a bit later, something else will happen where they say, well, we just need bodies, basically. A lot of the time it's religion-based. So at that point, there were some very conservative rules about what women do. But on the other hand, there were women that went against it, like there are now. So one of them was a rule that the women weren't to cut their hair. But of course there'd be women that cut their hair. Nobody follows everything exactly. So you'd have your standard ladies, and then your warrior ladies that go against the grain. And there wouldn't be millions of them, but of course there are. So it's the Dark Ages. The whole point of the Dark Ages is that we're never going to know. We're never going to know for sure either way.
Rather frustratingly, it was at this point that we suffered a bit of a technical difficulty with our recording, and we lost, for some strange reason, we just lost communication with each other. Always a bit frustrating when these things happen during an interview, especially when you've got Annie in full flow. However, it seems at this point actually an opportune time. And so we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be continuing our chat with Annie Allman from Bad Squiddo Games.
The nation is vast. There are battlefields of old, great convention halls, and worlds of fantasy to explore. Who will guide us across this great geek nation?
Since 2010, Geek Nation Tours have been providing holidays for groups of like-minded people. Whatever your nature of geek, tabletop gaming, TV, film, comic books, sports or science, Geek Nation Tours caters for you. Visit www.geeknationtours.com for more details and join the great Geek Nation.
Okay, we're back in the room. So Annie, you were talking to me about shield maidens.
Yes.
And about the rights that they have.
We had that technical difficulty, so I've totally lost track of my ramblings. But they did have very strict rules on women. Women and men both had their specific places, from my understanding, because again, it's the Dark Ages, nobody knows. Yeah. But just from written records and what we understand. But not everybody follows those rules. And it also, a lot of, when you think about history, a lot don't take into account things like transgender issues, which at the time, people would be less understanding and less knowing what the hell's going on. So there would be women living as men and, you know, saying, I'm not going to have children, I'm going to live as a man, going to have a man's haircut, I'm going to go into the war. And at that time, I believe they would have been more likely to say, okay, you're just... much like the Soviets in World War II, go, it's someone else fighting. We're not really going to argue about this. Off you go. So I've got figures such as Solveig, which haven't got traditional female Viking hairdos, such as the long hair. Basically, the long hair is quite important at the time. She's got an undercut and a bit of a Mohican, but she's kicking ass. So I like having the variety of figures involved there. So whilst it's not necessarily the standard that you'd have these massive shield maiden armies, one, it looks cool as hell on the table. If you're a woman and you want to play these games, I believe it's important to be able to represent yourself, well, from my own experience, and just to be able to say, yeah, I've got some cool kick-ass female minis. And
Yeah, go on.
I lost my track with all of our technical difficulties.
There were no technical
It looks
difficulties.
cool. It looks cool. There were no technical difficulties at all. Throughout history, the main recurring theme of women in combat is the town defense, the home defense. So whilst traditionally a lot of societies, men go, they do the fighting. Maybe a couple of women from that place will have gone and fought as well, but majority of people left behind are going to be women and children. Whilst everyone's away, they're being Vikings, they're raiding, they're off, they're gone. Someone invades the town. So the women are going to be defending the town. Which is the same with the Onabugaisha, that they're not necessarily going out and fighting and being trained to go out being on the front line in the war, but they're trained so that they know how to defend themselves if people come to the village. So that was a massive reason behind releasing the defending villages early in the year. So they've got improvised weapons in the same way that the women's home defence of the World War II British women I have are armed with whatever they can find. So the home defence were a big start of that. As we go into the new Kickstarter, it's been quite carefully planned out. So we have the fully trained, badass as hell, big helmets, massive mail coats, women that are going to be the half guard, basically, that are absolutely brutal. We've got the trained berserkers that are wild as hell. But we've also got the slingers, which aren't a massive Viking thing, but there are records of Viking slingers. Obviously, you've got slingers from different places around Dark Ages too, such as the Irish. But they're not the trained badass. They're the villagers. They're in the villager clothing. The villager clothing is very different to the shield maiden warrior clothes. So they've got their dresses, the brooches, the necklaces. They're not trained warriors, but they know how to do some slinging. So I like mixing it up like that. So you've got the more traditional, the headscarf, all of those sort of things doing the slinging. Then we've got as I said, the badass warriors doing their thing, and all of the in-betweens. So it's not just, here's a standard female warrior, here she is in all these different roles. So I've tried to keep it as accurate as possible, obviously in more numbers than there probably would have been, but it looks cool. I think the rule of cool is so important in gaming that you want it to look cool. And it should be possible for you to be able to have an army of shield maidens that aren't in metal bikinis and just look like something that you would imagine would be kicking ass.
Yeah, I think it's all about being pragmatic about how, there will be some people who turn around and go, oh no, that didn't happen, I refuse to have them. And if they can back that up with primary source material, then good for them. But I think if you just take a step back and go, well, these are families who are living in a very tough environment, so the women who were members of that family were not like your 18th century noble women sat in a mansion talking about, drinking tea and doing some crochet. These were women who were running the flat. Sorry, a needlepoint, doing needlepoint. The sort of Jane Eyre people.
Yes.
These were homesteaders, and everybody had to pull their weight. So, when it comes to defending your homestead,
it's a very hands-on society.
Yeah. So I
lot
can
of
see
those
it.
women there are strong because they're doing farm work, things like that. So they're already got the strength, and to train to be a warrior is a huge deal. You don't just train overnight, which is why I've got that variety of those people that go, okay, I'm not going to have kids, I'm not going to marry, I'm going to go off with those Vikings, and I'm going to be a Viking, and they say, well, it's just another person that's going to come with us. Cool. The more fighters, the better. And then there's the others that have had the kids. They're the mothers, the family. They tend to their farm and whatnot. But if someone's coming to the village, they're going to defend. They're going to defend with their slings or their bows or their spears or whatever they can find. So the versatility of the miniatures is that you can use them for whatever you want. So you can use a few, like the Soviets, you can have a few dotted about if that's what you want to do, or you can go sod it. Let's just have a whole load of women. And for me personally, I'm going to build an army once I've got some production casts. I had some early casts of these miniatures, and I gave them all away. So I had a set that I inked, a set that I gave to the painters, and then I had a set of everything that I've given away to various customers as teasers. So I haven't got any for myself yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to build an army for Saga 2, and I'm going to use mostly my ladies because I love them, and they look like they'd be so nice to paint. And I know I'm biased, but the painter as well has said how lovely they were to paint, because there's it's just really clear areas that are, you know, when things sort of paint themselves, it's a bit like that. So I'm really excited to paint some of those, but I'm going to mix some of the Grip and Beast male figures in as well, so it's not going to be an entirely female army. But that's what I'm going to do. So people will do as they wish. But the fact that you can use actual armies as well, you know, big armies for bigger games and rank and file games, which is something that there currently really isn't anything like that. It's the fact that the reason I focus on troops is because so many people that do call female minis, it's all characters, and I really want to do troops and that bulk and almost the nameless person, such as the Soviets. People know a couple of the famous names, but there's less recognition for those everyday female troops.
Considering you have been championing the fact of having female miniatures that are wearing a sensible amount of clothing and not wearing chainmail bikinis, there appears to be some controversy that you are courting about your berserkers.
There is.
Why is this?
I've decided to take a step out from my usual, but so far most people have seemed to be getting where I'm going. But I'd like to clarify it because I think it's a very important point. So if you haven't seen them, you should pause the podcast and go and check them out, because by the time the podcast is out, they'll probably all be shown. So there are 4 berserkers. The previous berserkers that I've released, which are currently out of production, but they'll be back. They've had some molding issues. They're not moldy. But these latest berserkers are female versions of the male berserkers.
Right.
So whilst I disagree when I obviously get into so many discussions online about 28mm women and representation, a lot of the time people will say, well, how can you have an issue with scantily clad women when so many of the male figures have got, you know, chests out, pants on, He-Man sort of thing? And it's an entirely different discussion, but I still believe that it's separate, it's different, it is different, it's not the same. But with these, I believe it's the same. So the berserkers, when I was giving the brief to the sculptor, I said, I want them to have a lot more flesh on show than anything else that you've sculpted for me. I absolutely do not want them sexualized. I want them to be PG, so, you know, no boobs hanging out, but reasonably with skin out, because they're berserkers. So berserkers wear the skins of animals, and they don't care, and they go into a crazy frenzy and go and kill stuff. So they're not going to be thinking, oh, I need to do this and this, or make sure that's okay. So I wanted them to be terrifying. I wanted them to be strong, but yeah, they're not wearing very much. But since I've built the company up, a lot of people have, not the majority, but still a lot of people have sort of misinterpreted what I do. So it's a good chance to sort of clarify it all. So I have sometimes conflicts where people say, I really love what you do, it's great. And I go, oh, thank you. And they go, yeah, down with this sort of thing. I'm not saying that women have to be covered up. And that's actually the opposite. It's sort of like that presumption that I was anti-sex, anti-boobs, anti-women's bodies. And I'm absolutely not at all. And I have a woman's body. It's pretty cool. But it's all about choice. So within the miniatures, the choice currently, although it's getting the last couple of years, strangely, it's been getting a lot better. But there's a point where it's tipped so heavily that if you want to field a woman in your army, she's going to be sexualized. So what I do is I create non-sexualized miniatures, mostly, you have to create so many just to even the balance ever so slightly, and it's still massively tipped the other way. So I focus on that, but it is entirely about choice. So you should be able, if you're whatever you are, you should be able to, I was going to say women, but anybody should be able to go, right, I want a woman in my army, I want a female leader, female troop, what shall I have? And your choice shouldn't just be something that is sexy. And that's, I don't quite get how that is controversial. But on the other hand, there is nothing wrong with anything being sexy. It's purely that if that is all that you have, and that is all that is represented, then it's not healthy. And that's not what there should be. So it's a grey area, because I can understand, I've had some discussions with people where I've said that something is okay, and they've said it's not okay, or I've said something's not okay, and they've said it's okay. So a lot of what is acceptable is personal opinion. So what I do is I'd like people to not see that I'm preaching or I'm not dictating and saying this is correct, this isn't correct. It's what I manufacture and what I stock is based entirely on my opinion. So with the Berserkers, for example, they've got flesh on show, but I don't feel personally that they're exploited or that they're sexualized, especially unnecessarily sexualized. There's nothing wrong with women's bodies. And there are many sculptors that do absolutely amazing sculpts and do women's bodies perfectly. And there's also times and places for it. So larger scale display pieces, I feel, have more validity than playing a fantasy war game, or even especially a historical war game, where your female characters are unnecessarily sexualized, because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying, and I've been criticised because I had a bit of a rant at another plastic set of shield maidens where they all had, well, they looked like cheerleaders wearing bits of chainmail wrapped around them. But then a few weeks later, I went on saying that the Conan miniatures were fantastic, and people said, "Well, the Conan miniatures are highly sexualized, and how could I justify one and not the other?" And it is a hard argument, and the only way I could describe it was the fact that the Conan miniatures were based off descriptions from the book, whereas the Shield Maidens were brand new miniatures with a brand new backstory, with people just coming up with some rubbish just to produce a bunch of 16-year-old cheerleaders dressed in chainmail. And it can be, it can be a bit tricky because, yeah, I do like the Conan miniatures, but they are based on books that were written 90 years ago. So I can justify those, but I can't justify new stuff. And it is the overtly sexualization that you see in some miniatures that really pees me off.
It's a really difficult one to argue. So I've had people saying, well, how come you're saying that these minis are okay and these minis aren't okay, and on the surface they're the same thing? Whereas I can recognise that they're not, but I find it quite hard to explain why they're different. So on the same level, I can understand how some stuff that I don't like people say is okay. So everyone's got their own level of acceptability. But I disagree when people say that oh, a woman in a chainmail bikini. Well, that's the same as, Conan, He-Man, a muscly guy in his pants. Because the majority of wargamers are straight men. So they're not choosing those figures and sort of fawning over He-Man. Much like the ancient Greek statues, they're not sexualized, they're not wearing many clothes, but it's more that athletic prowess, and it is different. So someone releases a muscly man in his pants, and you can just tell by the comments of people. So if you look on somewhere like Facebook, the comments won't be, oh, I'd like to take him home, sort of thing. Those comments don't exist. People go, oh, that's a badass character. Oh, yeah, I like that. That's cool. But if you put a scantily clad lady that's, wearing the equivalent, the comments are horrific. And people make comments, and when they're talking about a 28mm miniature, I sort of take it to heart, because some people go, oh, why do you get offended on behalf of a bit of plastic? But I think if you're making those comments about a 28mm bit of plastic, then that's reflecting your attitudes towards actual women. So there's people making some quite graphic comments about these bits of plastic when they're bits of plastic. And that's what actually puts me off putting more, because there is nothing wrong with sexualized miniatures. It's the total saturation of it, and that is mostly the only thing that you get. And I'd hate to release a miniature and then people make creepy comments about her because she's my creation, and I'd be a bit like, oh, that's kind of weird. So just to do miniatures with their legs, one's got a belly out with their legs, belly and arms out, that still feels like a crazy step for me, because I'm thinking, oh, I hope no one says anything weird about them, because I'm going to get defensive because they're my children. So it's a really good discussion point, because everyone has their own level of what's acceptable and what isn't. But I don't think that you can compare muscly macho man to sexualized boob out lady. But you can also do boob out ladies that are really badass. So it's again, there's things that people say, oh, you must hate this to me. And I say, no, that's really cool. I don't have a problem with that. It's just that sort of thing is being pushed as that's your choice for female miniatures. So the main thing about what I do is to help with the choice, even that balance, just by tipping it ever so slightly, influencing more companies so that they help tip it with me, and make it so that it's appropriateness, or whatever the word is the correct thing. So, if you're a fantasy mage, you can get away with a bit more. If you're going in the middle of battle, then why would you have an entire plate armor but with a big hole where your boobs are? It just doesn't make sense. So when I'm stocking and when I'm creating miniatures, I always think, would the miniature choose to wear this themselves? And that's quite a good thing for me to be able to figure whether something's terrible or not.
Yeah.
Now, when Annie was going to come on the podcast, she took it upon herself to say it would be an ideal opportunity for some people to ask questions. And so when we got together, she provided us with a list of questions that people had asked. Take it away, Mr. Hobbs.
Thank you, Neil. Well, we have a whole load of questions here, and I think I'd like to start with a bit of a tricky one. This one's come in from Patrick McLeod-Cullen, and he asks quite simply, Annie, why are you so awful? So awesome. Why are you so awesome?
I don't know. I'm not awesome. I'm terrible.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that.
You know me quite well. I'm terrible.
She is, Patrick. She's a terrible, horrible person.
I'm a
horrible person.
Awful person.
Shouts at people.
Awful.
She never tidies up. You should see her office.
It's a mess.
Yeah. I would have seen her kick a puppy.
I've never kicked a puppy. That's slander.
Maybe it was a duck.
It might have been a duck. They're the worst.
Yeah.
It deserved it. It was being nasty to me. Next question.
Yeah, it gave you that look,
It
didn't it?
did, yeah. It duck called me.
Okay. One from Andrew Hannigan. You do a lot of travel. Have you mastered a level of keeping sane and looking after your health?
No.
Alcohol, you say?
Neither. Yeah, maybe alcohol. My health is terrible. I should probably look after it a lot more, and my sanity is pretty terrible also. I don't travel as much as a lot of traders. There's some traders that seem to be somewhere every weekend, and that's pretty wild. But travelling around, I do seem to get ill pretty much at every trade show, and insane for the week before the trade show. But it's part of the fun, I think. The trade show emotional roller coaster of fun. The trade shows are always really fun most of the time, so it's worth it.
Maybe it's that keeps you sane.
Maybe.
All right, this one might have been already answered. It comes from Anonymous. What is the product which took you by surprise with its popularity?
I think this year it's definitely been the Honor Begeisha, which I spoke about earlier, that I thought, we'll take some to a trade show, early release, if I sell some, that's okay, and then people were pretty much queuing up to get them, so that was the one for that.
What else we got? Okay, from Roseanne Sears. Wants to know if there are any resources out there for less conventionally attractive female pieces, bulkier or older faces, scars, etc.
Google is probably the best. I find so many of my references on Google, but also just looking around, just looking at photos of real people. Not that there's fake people, but people that aren't airbrushed or in their best possible state. And sometimes TV shows, and just pausing parts of TV shows as well, just to get people in a natural state, is interesting. But there's a few books. I'm going to try and look them up, because when I used to draw a lot of life modelling, there were some books of various nude people in different poses, which were just actual bodies, which weren't in pin-up poses, that were really interesting, and they were good to draw. So they're probably pretty good to paint as well.
All right, last one. This is from Lewis Downs. What else, apart from the amazing Shield Maidens, do you have planned for 2018?
I'm going to tell you, because I always say, it's a secret. And I am being more and more secretive these days with my stuff. But a plan for after the Shield Maidens is for more Soviets. And poor Alan is working all over Christmas to finish these Shield Maidens for the Kickstarter, because he's done about half of it, but he's got a lot more to do. And he is the best, and I absolutely love him. And after this, once he's had a little break for a cup of tea, he will be doing some winter Soviets. So we've got the Soviet ladies in ushankas, greatcoats, the big padded jackets, looking a bit worn as well. I want to make them more worn and weathered to reflect the winter. And that will almost certainly be a Salute release, along with the retail release of the Shield Maidens and some other box sets, such as the Gunny Peegs, the Gunny Pets rules, all of that stuff together, because the rules will be finished by then. We'll be able to get box sets, so for new people that go, what is this? They can play the demo at Salute. Then they can buy the whole lot, just in one easy and nice affordable pack. Later on in the year, everything is so dependent on how the other things go. Something that I have been fantasizing about is English Civil War, but we will see, because there will be potential for more Shield Maidens, more World War II, so there's a couple of different areas of World War II that I'd like to cover. So now that I will have grown the Soviets, I'd like to grow the home front a bit more, and I'd like to introduce a few other places as well. So there's all that, and there's just so much, and it's dependent on how much money I have. So always when people say, "Oh, will you do?" It's like, just buy all the things. Buy the things I've got now, And then the more that you buy, the more funds that there are to do the next thing. Because other than my living expenses, everything just keeps ploughing back into the company to grow it as quickly as possible. So all of those things that I want to do, they're all funds dependent. So obviously, the more funds, the quicker and the better everything will be. So your support, your verbal support and your emotional support is amazing, but your money support is what moves things the fastest.
Yeah, because you've had quite a, I was going to say, unexpected outlay recently with operations for pigs. That was a little egg.
Not long ago, I was thinking, why have I got no money when I've been doing really well? And I was doing my account thinking, but I've taken loads of money. Why have I got no money right now? Oh yeah, so in May,
The vet
has it all. Yeah, in May, June, I think it was May, she started being ill. I have 3 guinea pigs, and they're all rescue guinea pigs from pretty grim backgrounds. And she got a little bit sick, and she went to the vets because she was kind of strange. I couldn't explain it. I just thought, you're a bit odd. I'll take you to the vets. And I think we're on about 2.5 grand now. And the moral of the story is to insure your pets. There's actually one place that insures guinea pigs. And at the time, I thought, that's £45 a month. Nothing bad's going to happen. I'd rather just pay for the things when they happen. I didn't quite realise how expensive this little egg would get. So she's called Nadia. She's become the little egg because she lost a lot of weight very quickly and looked like a little egg. So that's been her name since then. She's had her womb out. She's had a big chunk of her neck out. She then had a big chunk of her back taken out. She's been under anaesthetic 4 times, which is extremely risky for a guinea pig. So she's been through one thing after another since May. She's been hand-fed for months, which involved feeding her every 2 hours, taking to work, staying up all night. She's actually taken up an enormous part of this year in the sense that I think, well, why didn't I do that? Why didn't that happen? Oh yeah, because I was absolutely exhausted looking after this little egg just to get her to live. I'd like to thank very publicly my customers and supporters because I put up in the midst of all of the expenses, I put an Amazon wish list just to help out because some people were sending stuff and said, well, if you really want to send things, you can send more useful things. So you can send me some hay, some syringes, some medicine. It went crazy and people were absolutely lovely and it was just the best. And then somebody else set up a GoFundMe for some of the vet bills, which people donated to. And it was just really nice. And going to Crisis and in Antwerp, and so many people asking how the little egg was. She's the most famous guinea pig in the world. But there are so many, this year, she has totally dominated the year that despite, I've been trying to do all of this cool business stuff, but I've had to hand feed her for so long, which is syringe feeding into the mouth, giving medicine every few hours, all different medicines. When she had 2 holes in her, having to clean the holes, having to remove it was nasty as hell. But she's come out the other side, and so many people were like, shouldn't you just... But she's been ace the whole time. She's fully on the road to recovery now. Her hair's growing back. She's ace. I'm so happy that everyone's been really understanding and just really kind about it. But she's drove me nuts. But I forget how much of the year she really has taken over. It's been crazy.
To such an extent that she's now forcing you to go out running.
I know. Why did she do that? So I'm doing a thing called Running for Pigs, and I'll get Neil to put a link in the show note thingies. So, what I've been doing throughout December is running or walking 3 kilometres every day. It's been kind of fun, actually. It wasn't at the start. So I don't move very much. I go from home to work and work to home, and I use my muscles for carrying grid walls and boxes and things, but I don't get much exercise. So 3 kilometres to a lot of people might not be much, but for me it was huge. So every day for the entirety of December, I've been doing the 3 kilometres, and the money raised goes straight to Gleneath Guinea Pig Rescue, which is the place that I got these pigs from. It's a lady called Susie, and it's just her that runs the whole thing. She has no funding other than donations, and she just takes in so many guinea pigs. And from the amount of vet bills from my one little egg, it's just shown how much money she has to spend on these. And we donate £2 per pack of guinea pig miniatures sold goes towards her. It used to be £1, but then we moved it up to £2. So I kind of just wanted to do a bit more, and to be honest, something that would help myself at the same time. So running or walking every day is a big task, but it's good for me. And we're on day 18 at the moment, and I've been doing it every single day. I even done it after the pub one day, and I did it very early in the snow another day. So if anybody has any spare cash, follow up the link. All the money goes straight to Susie. It's not for my pigs. My pigs have had enough now. This is towards her and her vet bills, because she obviously gets them in such a state that she has to fix them up. This time of year is particularly horrible because people get rid of their pets before they get a new pet, which is really horrible. So they decide they perhaps want a puppy for Christmas, and the guinea pig gets in the way, so they dump the guinea pig. So whilst she's not rehoming at this time of the year to stop impulse purchases, she is collecting more pigs, so it's a tough time of year for her. So the more money that can help with all their vet bills, she gets sick, pregnant guinea pigs, blind guinea pigs tumours. She fixes them all up before she rehomes them. So it really is somewhere that every pound has such a massive impact, rather than it just going into a sort of endless pool like a lot of the large charities. So everything really does help. So we're on £420 so far, which she is over the moon about, and any more we can raise is awesome. And she's ace. She's such a nice person.
Cool. Good stuff. Well,
guinea pigs.
Well done. No, hugely impressive kiddo.
I'd like to really thank people have been absolutely ace, so I'm really impressed. Majority of the people that have donated have actually been Bad Squiddoers. They've been customers or supporters of Bad Squiddo. Most of that cash. Alan, my amazing sculptor, he has said that if I manage the entire 30 days, he will donate £80 from my next sculpting bill towards it as well. So that's amazing, and I'd like to thank him for that, because he is the best.
Brilliant stuff. As ever, Annie, it sounds like you're just like tremendously busy.
It's just been it's just been such a roller coaster from the start. It always feels like it's just. And I think I've said various times now, but it's the best metaphor ever. Like, I'm laying the tracks down before the train, like in the Wallace and Gromit film, where I'm figuring it all out as I go along, but it is so exciting. And occasionally I'll look at the huge racks I've got of miniatures in the office and just be really proud, because there's just so much, and I think, holy crap, I've achieved all of this, and the amount of things that I want to add to it are huge. And I'm happier than ever with the sculptors, casters, painters that I've got at the moment. They're exactly what I want. They're hardworking, they're great at what they do, but they're also really nice people, so I love working with all these people, and because it's Christmas and everything, I'd just like to say that they're the best, and I really appreciate them. I think they know anyway, but an extra shout outs, that's good. But yeah, everyone that works with me they're just a top bunch of people, and it's great that they're also on the same track with supporting what I do. because I know it's just work, but they do really support the female minis project, which is just ace, and it just makes me really happy to be able to work with all those people.
I think it's safe to say we've got an awful lot to look forward to from Bad Squiddo over the next 12 months. Obviously, immediately with this really cool Shield Maiden army, which sounds fantastic. And obviously, we need to get that out of the way as quickly as possible, so we can get some
out
more.
The way.
Well, they're getting in the way of more female samurai. This is how I see it. I mean, why on earth you did Shield Maidens as opposed to a female samurai army? I will never know. But I suppose I can see where you were coming from. But yeah.
Don't start him off, Annie, because we'll have hours and hours of him telling you all about samurai and
Do
the
you love
clan
samurai?
in great detail.
Anyway,
Oh, he does.
yes. So, okay. So, just to remind people, Kickstarter launching on 23rd of January.
Hopefully, yes, that's the goal.
Okay, 23rd of January, and the name of it is
Freya's Wrath.
Freya's Wrath. And there'll be more female Shield Maiden than you can shake a very big stick at.
Yes, or a very large Scandinavian cat at.
Even better. Cool.
So that's the next big thing. Keep an eye on all the social medias. There's also a newsletter, and I will be updating everything. There is a group that I don't plug enough called Baggy's Cave on Facebook. So if you put Baggy's Cave into the search on there, it's like a bit like the Meeples page, or the Meeples group, really. It's fans that can come chat and get a bit more extra chatting. All my painters, sculptors, casters are in there, so it's a good place if you've got any questions or just to show off all your painted stuff. It's a really nice place to hang out and just sort of doss around on the sofas, really. The virtual sofas.
Yes. Cool. Well, we'll make sure we get links into all this stuff in the show notes. Yeah, so many congratulations on a successful year.
Thank you.
Yes, as I say, dining back and doing less. Yeah, that worked out well for you, didn't it?
It did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Damn business growing by itself.
Darn it. Yes,
How dare it? People buying all the things while I order.
It's always a pleasure to catch up. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Aw. Thank you very much. I've got a good week of worrying about everything I said and making sure that I didn't do anything terrible. But it's probably been fine. Probably.
It's fine, and if it isn't, I'll fix it in post. It's not a problem.
Yeah, just add it.
It's not a problem. There might be a couple of beeps in this
It's
one.
been really fun. I don't think I did any beeps. Maybe.
Oh, yes, you did.
Only one or two.
I don't know anymore. I don't go out into society. I've got no restrictions anymore. Well, thank you very much. It has been fun, and I'm hoping that people have got lots of positive, cool, exciting things from it all, and useful facts and whatnot.
No, that's brilliant, kiddo. Well, Annie, yeah, thank you so much. Take care of yourself, and
Hey.
I am sure we will catch up at several shows in the next year, because you appear to be at all of them.
Yay, most of them.
Most of them, indeed.
I'm not a Derby once.
Maybe a Derby.
We almost got away with it.
Okay.
We almost got away with that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on.
Yes.
It's been ace. Bye.
We hope that you're enjoying this episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you are, would you like to support us? There's a couple of ways of doing so. You can become a patron of the show by supporting us on our Patreon page. There you can give regularly every time we produce a show. Alternatively, you may want to give a one-off donation, and you can do that by using PayPal. For more details on both these options, please click on the Donate tab on our website www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. Well, I don't know about you, but a full Shield Maiden army does sound really cool. What a great way to start 2018, eh? Jump on a Kickstarter in January. Yeah, start as you mean to go on, that's what I say. Cool stuff. Well, thank you to Annie for joining us for the podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. As to be said, Annie's a fabulous guest. Really enjoyed speaking to her. So, hope you enjoyed this bonus episode that we managed to get out before the new year. So all that remains to be said is thank you once again for listening. Thank you for listening throughout 2017. We really appreciate it. Hope you had a good Christmas. Happy New Year to everyone. Have a very happy New Year. And we will be catching up with you very soon for our review of 2017. Until then, happy gaming. We'll chat to you soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media. And here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.